Hello everyone. Here I am today to talk about CULTIC, and with me is Jason. Hello, Jason. How are you?
Hello. Good. How's it going?
Okay. If someone has any problem with the sound, tell me because I didn't have time to check everything on point. But I think it should be everything okay. So, for those that doesn't know about CULTIC, well, Jason, tell us what is CULTIC.
So, CULTIC is a horror-flavored retro shooter that I'm developing. It's a solo passion project that I've been working on since January of last year, so a little over a year and a half now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's releasing next month, hopefully. So yeah, we're pretty much just in the sprint to the finish line right now.
Mm-hmm. In fact, this past weekend in Real Thief, we had the trailer with the release date. That is the October 13th.
Right. Yeah.
And but for those that doesn't know you, who is Jason? Did you have any other previous game, or this is your first one?
This will be my first like commercial project that's been released. I've worked in game dev for a long time, just as a hobbyist before now.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just like some game jam games that I've done, but nothing that anybody's probably ever heard of. So this will be my first big step into the real world.
Mm-hmm. And I remember when you started to talk about the game that because you are very active on Twitter, you can follow Jason on Twitter. He has his Twitter down there. And I remember when you started that during all the process, you have been showing all the little details that you were making and so. And how was the why did you start to make a game like this?
I just grew up, like most people who are kind of in the indie or the retro shooter revival right now. I grew up
Mm-hmm.
playing games like this, and so I've always wanted to kind of make my own retro shooter, but I never really could get down like the art style that I wanted, and so I started messing around with a process to convert 3D models into sprites, and it was just kind of messing around with that, and it went really well, and that grew into the game as it is today. So it kind of just started off as a little experiment to just mess around with some spriting, and here we are a month away from launch.
Mm-hmm. Yesterday I was playing the demo again for the people to know what it is about and everything. And they were really surprised because graphically and it's even if it has a retro style, um, it doesn't look like retro because it I don't know how to explain it because has that something special that it makes special at all levels because yeah, looks retro, but at the same time you have the lighting, you have all the little details that make it so unique. Do you think that people can feel it too?
Yeah, I mean I feel like the color palette especially was kind of one of the things that caught people's eye early on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a really fun way to kind of shape the art style and how all the like textures and sprites are done. And not everybody likes the color palette. I learned that pretty early on, and that's okay. You can always turn it off in the options. But having that like having that palette to work with as like a as a guide for like creating textures and figuring out lighting and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
I think has really helped the game settle into its own unique art style, and that's I like to lend that eye-catching aspect of it to a lot of my early success, and kind of getting me started.
Mm-hmm. In chat, we have Westman that says that pixel art looks amazing, but not only the visual part. Because yesterday, when I was playing, I told that no, also the sound and the music comes together with the art style because has some type of gritty sense of how do you make it because it is very cohesive. It makes it goes everything in the same vibe, and it's amazing.
Yeah, the so the audio is just as fun as the color palette to work with. I do a lot of like it's not just like bit crushing the sounds,
Mm-hmm.
but that's kind of what gives it the old like build engine style is, all of those audio samples were generally bit crushed to get them to fit onto within the storage limitations that they had, and so there's a little bit of bit crushing that goes on to get the samples kind of in that like crunchy feel, but then
Mm-hmm.
I don't compromise on like the high end, the like sizzle part of the
Mm-hmm.
audio. And so like even the music, like a lot of it's a custom sound font that I put together. But I always include like one or two high fidelity instruments in there, so it doesn't just sound like like a muffled audio track. You
Yeah.
can tell that it's been like engineered to sound this way. It's not just like I wrote
Mm-hmm.
something and then just compressed it like 30 times. So a little more thought goes into it than that. But yeah, the audio's been a lot of fun to work with, and there are some limitations with it, like a lot of the ambience and like the background audio, like the weather sounds and stuff like that. I have to be really careful with how that gets bit crushed, so it doesn't like just become absolutely awful to listen to. So I just try to be careful with it. So I don't like stick rigidly to a certain amount of compression, at the cost of pleasant audio. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, but I feel like it all works together really well.
Mm-hmm. It does, it does. In fact, I have here a little clip of yesterday that was a moment that really, obviously you have put that in that weight so it can understand. You will not listen it, but you will know what moment it is. Is at the final part of the demo where you arrive here and you hear the sound of the ropes of the bodies moving, and that moment is just amazing. And it's just a little example of all the little details that are in this game that really outstands. How much time do you take to make those little moments outstand so much?
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't say that I like wreck my schedule over them. A big part of about like being successful as a solo developer is like picking your battles kind of in development. Like if I'm gonna like that cave area, for example,
Mm-hmm.
there's a ton more like decoration I could have done and like modeling to make the cave look more organic and more photorealistic. But like other games out there already have photorealism, and that's not
Mm-hmm.
something that I'm going to beat them at. And so like I pick my battles elsewhere. So like
Yeah.
spending more time on audio design and stuff like that to help the immersion, because like I only have so much time to put into things.
Mm-hmm.
So I try not to get super carried away with it. And it's just kind of like once I get it to the point where it's good enough, I have to move on. Otherwise, I'll just like spend forever tweaking it, and then I just don't get anything done.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, but yeah, that moment is just perfect because you take out everything. There is no more sound. It's just the sound of the rope moving close. It's a quite good moment. So, let me check.
I'm gonna apologize in advance to anybody who's watching that my eyes are all over the place. I've got like your face pulled up over here, and then I've got like your stream pulled up over here, and I've got my camera up here, so I'm just like my eyes keep going
Don't
every
worry, don't
all
worry.
all over the place.
So, let's see. Which was the most difficult part for you in the development?
Um, Gosh, probably just like designing the maps, honestly. Most of my game development experience before this was in more like single screen arcadey type games, or like roguelike games that are with a procedural generation. And so I
Mm-hmm.
was much more used to designing like small set pieces, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to large contiguous levels. And so just like learning how to make levels that flow decently well and like create open-ended areas that aren't like so big that they just feel empty, or so small that you don't feel like you have the freedom to go anywhere or do anything. And so that's just been like honestly the biggest learning curve for me. And it even shows, like after the Next Fest update where I completely reworked the first map,
Mm-hmm.
going on to like map 2 and 3, which I had originally done like a year prior. It
Mm-hmm.
was like it was such a big difference. So I wound up having to like scrap those levels and start them over too. And so but it's just like, I've done this as a hobby for so long, but
Mm-hmm.
only now am I finally doing it full time. And when you do it full time, like you learn so much and your skills like progress so quickly. And so it's like, even just like looking at the first version of like the weapon sprites and the heads up display
Mm-hmm.
sprites compared to how they look now, and it's just like the detail and really refining the color palette, and it's all stuff that just evolves so quickly. But the map design is definitely like what is taking me the longest. And so I kind of just at like January of this year, I like started sitting down and just like blowing through the levels and just trying to get them all knocked out, because I'd spent so long just like getting like the enemies working and getting the core systems in place and doing all of the art, and then I just like hadn't started on the maps at all. And so it's just like really nose to the grindstone, and I'm really hoping to take everything that I've learned for the future chapters and
Mm-hmm.
be able to spend more time on creating like more detailed maps with more stuff to interact with, now that I'm not kind of splitting my time between like level design and then having to stop every 5 seconds to go implement some new attack on an enemy or a new weapon or something in the
Mm-hmm.
menus that's broken. So I'm really looking forward to having like a stable finished product that I can build off of instead of always being in like half finished mode. I think it'll help a lot with moving forward and in doing so quickly,
Yeah,
but
because
we'll see.
following you on Twitter seems like you are doing something and suddenly you say, but this can be done, and you start working on something completely different.
Yeah,
But
yeah. It's I feature hop a lot, and it's just kind of like, well, you get like really bored of working on maps because that's all you've been doing, and then like, oh, what'd be really cool is adding in a function that you can roll out of jumps so that you don't take fall damage, and that's not working on level design. So I'm gonna go do that now.
Mhm.
So but I've been trying really hard to keep the project scope under control. There are some ideas that I've had that just didn't make the cut because they were just going to take too long or they just didn't fit. And I've gotten a lot better about that. I used to be like a notorious project hopper. Like I'd work on a project for like 4 months and then get a new idea for something else and then jump to that. So working on the same game for almost 2 years now is it's something else. I'm really growing up. I'm an adult now.
Mhm. But for example, it is interesting that you mentioned that when you see again some maps that you made at the beginning, you know now how to improve them. Because, for example, the Blasphemous developer also told that when he was working on Spec Ops: The Line, he was quite new. He was a junior developer, and now looking back, he has improved a lot and says, "Oh, that could have been done different." Do you see that
Yeah.
progression? Do you see that level of progression on your skills just by working on it and doing more work over it?
Yeah, and a lot of the times it's like some of it's stuff that I can't even go back and change now, like the menus, the menu system in Cultic is
Mm-hmm.
like I threw it together like as fast as I could for the original Realms Deep
Mm-hmm.
demo back in 2021, and
Yes.
like it's really just held together by duct tape, and I should have scrapped it and started over, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't. I just kept building on it, and so now it's just like a giant ball of duct tape that works. But I've got like so many ideas for how I could do it better, and I'm just like on my next project, I'm gonna do the menus first because the menus are awful.
But
And so yeah, it's
it
stuff like
works.
that, and and just like ideas that or a lot of placeholder stuff. That's like, sorry, I'm gonna get back on track. What I'm doing right now, for example, is like really just having to get rid of a bunch of placeholder stuff that has
Mm-hmm.
been that I threw into place really quickly because I needed to get it there in time for the demo, and for the last year and a half, that's just been like the skybox that I redid today. The skybox has
Mm-hmm.
been around since like the second month of working on the game, and I've just never replaced it. And I needed to because it was not great. I mean, it looks fine, but it was not up to the current standards of the art in the game. And so like that, and then like stuff in the menus that was all placeholder stuff, and then like the upgrades menu in survival is still an under construction thing, and I need to go back and add that because I just put that off for so long. So it's like playing catch up with all this stuff that I should have just done originally, but now
Mm-hmm.
I'm kicking myself for it. But oh well, I still got like 3 whole weeks, right? So it'll be fine.
So you say that this scale is going to be even better on next chapters because it looks awesome. I
Yeah, I that skybox is going to be in the current version,
mm-hmm.
so I just updated it today. But yeah, so that's just like it's been the same image since
Yeah.
the original Realms Deep demo, and just
Mm-hmm.
like that was a placeholder that I threw together really quickly, and and it needed to be updated. So I finally got that knocked out today.
Mm-hmm. And for example, just to make a little idea, because you are a solo dev, you are making everything. You are making graphics, you are making music, you are making everything by your own.
Right.
How much time did it take to make the first level, the one that you go just at the beginning, the building?
Um, the original one or the one that's in the demo now, the current version of the demo map.
Let's assume both. First, how much time did it take you to make the original, and
So the original, I want to say I put it together in like a week, um, because so when 3D Realms first approached me about like publishing Cultic, the game was
mm-hmm.
still it was like a test area. It was like a 10-meter wide patch of dirt and like two enemies, and that was
Mm-hmm.
it. And that because I was still working on all the basic stuff, and I was like, it was really exciting to have them approach me, but I was like, I don't even have a game yet. Like, I don't even know if Cultic is going to be fun. So
Mm-hmm.
I asked if I could have a month to put together like an actual playable proof of concept.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had, and so in that month I added like all the different cultists, the harvester, the chainsaw guy, like the little ceiling enemies, the harvested, like the shotgun, the sten, the grenade launcher, like the dynamite, like everything, like just like added all this stuff, and then like the map itself took like a week to put together, and I was just like rushing because like I had to get like a basic save system put in place,
Mm-hmm.
and then when I went back and redid it, I think I spent about 3 weeks on it the second time through, because I just like rebuilt the whole thing from the ground up, and that map is pretty long. It's the rest of the maps in the game are a little bit shorter,
Mm-hmm.
like if you took the cave encounter off of the first map, that's about how long the rest of them are. So they're just like maybe
Mm-hmm.
a tiny bit shorter. Um, but then so that worked really well as like a vertical slice of the game. Like here's what you can expect like mechanics wise, and here's what you can expect
Yeah.
combat wise, and here's what you can expect like spooky kind of horror sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the rest of the maps are a little bit shorter. But anyway, yeah. So that one took about 3 weeks to put together, I think, just working on the map nonstop.
But are going to be shorter. But like this first part, I mean, it is a small, between quotes, a small map, but has a lot of ways to go through it and to check it again. Are going to be like that or more streamlined like the further parts?
So it's a little bit of both. Some of the maps are the same way. They're kind of open ended. Like there's a path you have to take to get forward, but there's like areas that are a little larger and you have freedom to move around. But then there are a few maps that are like the spooky maps, and those ones are a little
Yeah.
more linear.
Mm-hmm.
And they still have a few like open ended combat segments. So it's a little bit of both. I would say that like probably like seven of them, like six of the maps are like wide open, kind of like the first map, and then maybe like four of them are a little more linear. So I think it's a pretty good mix though, and it's mainly like the really wide open areas with like tons of combat. Those maps are then followed up by a more relaxed like
Mm-hmm.
linear map, so to kind of give the player a break from how
Yeah.
chaotic those big
Mm-hmm.
open maps can get. And so I think it works pretty well like that. But everyone will be able to figure out in a month, whether I'm that's true or whether I'm full crap. So we'll see.
Okay. And for you, which parts are more rewarding? The ones that are where you can say they will see this way, the more linear ones, or the ones that you say I put the playground and let them play.
Man, I don't know. It's they're both really fun to put together and really fun to like watch people play because like it's obviously what like at like Gamescom or watching people play Cultic on stream. It's
Mm-hmm.
always really fun to see how they progress through the open areas. and like how they choose to take out those distant enemies. Like, do they sneak up and shotgun them? Do they throw chairs? Do they snipe them with a pistol from 200 meters away?
Mm-hmm.
But then like people get to the cave segment, and that's when like I know what's going to happen. Like, I know that this enemy is going to spawn here, and I know that there's this part that's like kind of spooky and unexpected. And so it's when you get to engineer an area like that, like when you put together an
Mm-hmm.
experience and you get to see how people react to it, is really fun. Like, I always enjoy watching people, they're playing through the first map, and it's kind of goofy, and it's chaotic, and the cultists are idiots and are like tripping over themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and then you drop into the cave and the music stops and you're in this pile of bodies and it's super dark and creepy, and they're like, "Uh-oh, like I'm not playing a horror game. I didn't know this." I've had
Mm-hmm.
to tell people a few times on stream, like, there's no jump scares, don't worry. Like, it's spooky, but it's not like, it's not like Five Nights at Freddy's down here. Like, you'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's tough. Like, they're both really fun to design. And I think, like, I would really like to work on like a dedicated horror game in the future where it is like just entirely like building sequences like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think if I did that, I would really miss the open-ended part of Cultic. So I don't know. I'm happy that I get to do both. We'll just say that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that in the maps part, but also the gun part is something that you are working very hard on, because watching you through all this time on Twitter, you can see, well, we can see how you started working on how to the feeling of the shotguns, of the guns. How much time did it take you also making each one of those guns?
The modeling process itself, like, I could usually add a gun in 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Usually the first day, I would model it and texture it, and then the second day I would animate it and implement it. And so it usually didn't take too long as I could find like good reference photos for the weapons and everything. Um,
Yeah, but
so, and
I mean,
obviously, like, obvious. Sorry,
I
go ahead.
I mean not the modeling, but the feeling, the how it works, how it. I don't know how I'm explaining well. Not just the
Yeah, I mean,
modeling.
that
Yeah.
that would that would be the second day part, or the implementation that I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned. Is actually like getting it in the engine and tweaking all the sounds, and tweaking the recoil and tweaking the damage and how
Mm-hmm.
enemies respond to it. And so that's all. It usually only takes about like a day of work to actually get everything put together. But then it's just, it evolves over time. It's
Mm-hmm.
how, because those things don't get finalized until people have played the demo and they've been able to say, oh, like the shotgun spread used to be a lot like wider than it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like overwhelming feedback, was that people didn't like how wide the spread was. And so, like things like that change.
Mm-hmm.
And things like pellets being able to like penetrate enemies, and like all these little things change based on feedback. And so, I can't take full credit for how the guns work, because a lot of that's guided by the players too, which is why like the original Realms Deep demo was so important, was just like getting all this feedback, and because I can play the game all day long and think that things are fine, but then you hand it off to somebody, and they're like, oh yeah, the shotgun feels like crap, and then it's like, well, okay, well, I guess it's back to the drawing board then. So
How much has changed the game from your initial view to the one that finally it's going to be because of the feedback?
um feedback wise, I would say like the biggest changes would be like the color palette has evolved a lot based on feedback.
Mm-hmm.
The original color palette was much darker, and only
Mm-hmm.
had 32 colors in it. And a lot of folks found that they had difficulty like picking enemies out of backgrounds, and stuff with that. And so like the color palette got expanded to have about 10 more colors in it. That really helped to fill in like the dark, dingier areas. And then like the lighting got adjusted so that, the levels themselves are brighter, and enemy shaders got adjusted so they always kind of stand out against the background a little more. And so like visually that was a big change. Um, Gameplay wise, there's been a lot of like balancing to the weapons that has happened, but I can't
Mm-hmm.
think of anything like super major that's changed based on feedback. I'm sure there's something that I'm forgetting. But like concept wise, the game has changed a lot from initial conception, because initially I wanted to do something a lot more like like Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2, where you had
Mm-hmm.
like, like because that game has like a ton of verticality and you've got these like force powers you can use, and I wanted to do something more like that, kind of more like BioShocky, where you had like the guns part of things, but then you also had like abilities and things like that. And there actually is like an abilities system in the game, fully coded and fully functional, but it like it just didn't play well. Like functionally, it worked fine, but there wasn't any reason to not just like in a game like BioShock, enemies are really spongy, and so like
Mm-hmm.
you kind of have to use your abilities combined with your weapons to kind of strategically get through combat. But in
Mm-hmm.
Cultic, like you can shoot an enemy in the head like twice with a handgun and they're dead. And so it's like there was really never any reason to use an ability over just shooting somebody. And then like there's so little like handheld like hand holding narrative in Cultic that it was going to be difficult to like explain the ability system and like how the player got it without doing like cutscenes or really dragging it out. And I really like the hands-off approach to the narrative, and so ultimately it got scrapped. It just
Mm-hmm.
like didn't feel good, and so there was a lot of stuff like that early on that like I really wanted the player to have like a like kind of like a voice in their head sidekick kind of thing. Like it was a lot of differences early on
Mm-hmm.
that were influenced by games that I really really like Shadows of the Damned and stuff like that. And then when I actually
Mm-hmm.
got to putting it all on paper, I was like, okay, yeah, this isn't going to work, and this isn't going to work, and this is going to take too long, and so I really want to try to find a way to get the ability system back into gameplay, even if it's just like as a cheat or in survival mode or something like that. Because like they all work. I put a lot of work into them, and they're all functional, and they're
Mm-hmm.
cool. But it's just like they just like didn't fit in the gameplay very well. So hopefully someday I'll find a way to get those back into players' hands. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so a lot of stuff like that has changed over the development cycle.
You have mentioned one game that is a bit controversial, that is Bioshock, because there is some people, and I am among them, that don't think that Bioshock is a very good game, but
I love Bioshock.
yeah, yeah.
Bioshock is so good. It's just like it's one of the like any game that lets you make a build there you just like hit people with a wrench for the whole game and you're super overpowered. That's excellent.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like any game that gives you player freedom is right up my alley. And Bioshock is really big on just like approaching combat however you want. You can absolutely spend all of your money at the vendor and just buy like grenades or rockets nonstop
Yeah.
and just blow everybody up, or you can be a penny pinching hacking guy and just like use stealth and strategy, and it's just yeah, open-ended gameplay is where it's at. It's my favorite. I really struggle with games like I feel like I talk about this on almost anytime I do an interview, but like it's like the difference between Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal for me is like I
Mm-hmm.
really really liked Doom 2016 because like the gameplay is very flexible, and you could kind of play however you wanted. And then Doom 2016 really wants you to like play a certain way. They really want you to make use of all of these systems that the game has, and
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not smart enough to do that. There's too many buttons. I can't remember all of them, and so that just doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like oh gosh, Hitman Absolution. That was the last gen Hitman game, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the one where it was like, they were marketing it as like this, oh, like you are the agent and you can do whatever you want and you can go in guns blazing or you can do the stealthy approach. But then when you actually play the game, the only way to like unlock things and progress is to do it stealthy. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
constantly penalized for going guns blazing. That's like,
Yeah,
okay,
that
well,
Hitman
that's not
wasn't.
cool.
Yeah, that Hitman wasn't so well. Anyway, lately they are making much better. The last Hitmans, the ones that are just Hitman, are quite better. So, uh,
Yeah, they're really good.
mhm. um, it's going to be Cultic Chapter One.
Right.
How many chapters we will have?
So I've got two that are like storyboarded and planned out, like counting this one. So chapter 1 and chapter 2 are
Mm-hmm.
kind of designed to tell one story,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then I have ideas for a third chapter, but it's going to depend on like the reception of the game and player feedback. Like if people love Cultic and they want more of it, then it shouldn't be any problem to keep doing story content. If people hate Cultic and they never want to see it again, then I'll move on to something else. So,
Mm-hmm.
but there's stuff I want to do outside of the story content too. Like I really, really want to do a co-op mode for survival at least, just because like I've always wanted to do a multiplayer thing, but I've never messed around with multiplayer code at all. So I want to learn how to do that, and I think it would be
Mm-hmm.
great to have like a finished game as a starting point for that. And then like more survival excuse me, more survival maps and stuff like that I want to do as well. But yeah, to answer your question, 2 chapters planned. After that, it'll just depend on if people want more or not. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then like maybe like getting like if I could get workshop support, that would be awesome. I don't know how to do it, and it's probably a pain in the butt, but that would be really cool because I think it would be really cool to see somebody port like all of Doom 2's maps into Cultic. That would be awesome. So stuff like that, I think would be great. But it's so over my head. I've
Mm-hmm.
never done anything like that before, so it would be a big learning experience for sure.
Mm-hmm. And what feature is the one that you are most proud of in Cultic?
But what feature?
Yeah. Well, the camera went out.
Yeah, one second. I'm
Yeah.
gonna need to.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna blow my nose. I need to
Yeah,
turn the
yeah, yeah.
microphone off. Sorry. Okay. So I think the feature I'm most proud of now is probably the kick boosting. And of course, that was a complete accident that ever happened. But like, if you do a kick while you're in the air, you do like an air kick, and that kick
Mm-hmm.
propels you forward a tiny bit. And the boost that you get from kicking doesn't start to degrade until you touch the ground. And so if you jump immediately again, you can stack those up almost like bunny hopping or like backwards lawn jumping in
I
Mario
think
64.
that today you have yeah, retweeted something like that, isn't it? Or I saw that you made.
Yeah, I did a post about it, a stupid meme post that got a ton of attention. But yeah, so like that's and it's so fun because it just like it's like kind of like wall jumping in Super Metroid. Like you don't ever have to do it, but
Mm-hmm.
knowing how to do it like makes the game so much easier and also lets you sequence break the crap out of it. Like you can just like there's a segment in one of the later levels where you have to like lower a drawbridge and defend yourself while the drawbridge lowers. But
Mm-hmm.
if you do it right, you can just build up a kick boost and jump over the gap, and it's hard to do, but it's doable. Like I tested it, it's 100% feasible, and I'm not taking it out. So like, I'm really interested to see how people use it to completely just speed run and break the game. It's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
kick boosting's a lot of fun. And aside from that, like the dynamite is really fun, and it's one of those things that like it's and a lot of people who come to play Cultic, they're expecting it to be more like Blood, and just because like
Mm-hmm.
the build engine aesthetic, and so they get to the dynamite and they're like, oh, this is going to be like Blood dynamite, where you just left click and that just lights it, throws it, and it blows up on contact. And dynamite doesn't work like that in Cultic. It's more of like a utility, but because it's been taken out of that class of just because like the grenade launcher is your left click to point and blow something up weapon. That's what it's
Mm-hmm.
designed for. The TNT, like you can do the quick tosses when you have a gun out. Like you can toss a bundle with your offhand
Yeah.
and then shoot it. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't have time to switch, that's a lot of fun. You can tear the binding off and throw like a cluster of sticks, which spreads out more
Yes.
than a
Mm-hmm.
regular bundle, and that's really fun for like crowds that have dispersed a little bit. You can like pile them up and destroy a boss in like 2 seconds by just putting like 30 bundles of dynamite on the ground and then shooting it. And so that's also really fun. You can also boost yourself around with dynamite a little bit, and so like there's just like so much flexibility with the TNT, and because you can control lighting it and throwing it separately, you can do air bursting really easily, and yeah, and so it's great. And so like I'm really proud of how that particular feature turned out. But I'm sure that people will find a way to use kick boosting and dynamite in tandem to completely break the game, and I'm here for it. I'm excited. So as long as it's not like a game breaking bug, I don't really plan to take any exploits like that out because they're just too fun.
Mm-hmm.
So
And one thing that you already know that maybe it's going to be not so good or not so perfect like you thought, that will arrive at the final game.
oh, I don't know. Like it's really hard to say because like last night I did my last big like playthrough of the demo or the
Mm-hmm.
of the game before I sent it off for QA, and I feel like the game, because I always play on hard. That's like my middle of the road difficulty,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like the game's super easy. But of course like I'm the developer and I have like the maps memorized. But then but like I find extreme difficulty to be fun, but super super hard. But then there's some people out there who have no trouble with extreme. But then I'm at Gamescom, you've got people who struggle on the casual, and so it's like I have no idea how like the difficulty is going to turn out. I'm really hoping that
Mm-hmm.
the QA testing will give me some insight. But like stuff like that, it's like enemies that I can't really tell if they're difficult or not because like when you have their patterns memorized, that they're a cinch to take care of. But like when
Mm-hmm.
you don't exactly know what they're going to do, there's a little more surprise to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be like probably the thing I'm most concerned about is just like people finding out that the game is just like way too easy or it's like way too hard. But
Mm-hmm.
with 5 separate difficulty modes, I imagine everybody will be able to find the difficulty that works for them. And then like if you like find all the secrets and get all the weapon parts and upgrade your weapons all the way, you're absolutely unstoppable. So and that's good. Like I like players to be able to feel powerful. That's why I play games is to like is to
Mm-hmm.
have fun and to feel like a badass for a little bit and not me as I am in my daily life. So that kind of thing is good. But some people want more punishing games and a bigger challenge. And I don't know if Cultic on Extreme will be enough for them or not. We'll see. The first boss fight is an absolute like killer fight, and like I can barely beat it on Extreme. So I'm looking forward to seeing how people do that and if it's even beatable. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm. And well, we have go directly through the game, but which are the references or the inspirations you took from to make Cultic?
So, I would say the biggest ones are probably Resident Evil 4 and Dark Forces 2. I mentioned
Mm-hmm.
the kind of the setting and the design of the combat and like the design of some of the enemies and like the ambience and the music. A lot of that's very like Resident Evil 4, which is one of my favorite games of all time. And and you really see that influence when it comes to
Yeah.
the pacing of the combat and the way
Mm-hmm.
that like enemy behaviors are very consistent and they're telegraphed clearly, and there's not very much randomness to the combat. Enemies
Mm-hmm.
always travel at the same speed and they wait the same amount of time between each attack, and and so they're very predictable. Like once you learn their patterns, you can start to exploit that. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of my favorite things about games like Resident Evil 4 or like Killing Floor 1 is another one that I really enjoy this about, is that like when you walk into an encounter and you see all the enemies that are there, you can kind of do like immediate like threat assessment, like okay, who do I have to take out first, who poses the biggest threat, like when do I need to get
Mm-hmm.
into cover, where am I safe, where am I not safe. And you don't get a lot of that in games where enemies are like hit scanny or they're more erratic in their movements.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of becomes just like a frantic like sprint around and hold down left click and hope for the best. But in order for players to be able to experiment in Cultic like I want them to. Like in order for people to feel safe throwing a chair at an enemy, they need to know that they have time and space to throw the chair, that they're not just going
Mm-hmm.
to get hit scanned. Um, and so a lot of that comes from Resident Evil 4. Like and that's one of those things. Like I talk about Bioshock, like Resident Evil 4 is one of those games that, like the weakest, like the knife, the weakest item in your arsenal is so versatile because
Mm-hmm.
like as long as because you can be good at the combat, like you're allowed to be good at the combat versus like I always compare like that to like Resident Evil 6, where like enemies are a lot more out of control and it's just like
Mm-hmm.
action dialed up to 11, and like enemies are able to like break out of certain animations to start other animations, and stuff like that just makes it feel like the combat's so chaotic that you like can't be good at it. You're kind of just like at the mercy of whatever the enemy decides to do.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't really want to go for that. It's like Resident Evil 4, big time, and then Dark Forces 2, really in the like kind of the level design, like the verticality and the kind of just like freedom to like go anywhere and just jump on things and throw things, because that's something that Dark Forces 2 did a lot of, because you had that like you could do like the force jump and you could just like get on top of like anything, and then there were a lot of secrets that were really well tucked away in places like that, or just areas where you weren't really sure if you were supposed to be there or not, but it was cool that you could jump up there. And yes, Cultic does have invisible walls. Like there's areas that I don't want you to go because you'll fall through the map. But for the most part, like it's a lot of that like open-ended design comes from, at least what I remember Dark Forces 2 as a kid. I wonder if I played it again now if it would be different. But I'm gonna stick with my memories and we'll go with that.
Mm-hmm. So you are not of those that play your favorite games again, because for example, I am playing again No One Lives Forever. That
Hmm.
we all have the memories that No One Lives Forever were super cool games, were awesome games. You play them now and you say, yeah, for the moment they were so great, but now they aren't so much.
Yeah, honestly, I would play Dark Forces 2 more if getting it to run on Windows 10 wasn't such a nightmare. It's so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I need to go and look and see if there's I don't think there's like a source port or anything, but there's got to be something that gets it to run better. But like I've installed God knows how many like mods and patches for that game, and
Mm-hmm.
it just runs like garbage. It's so bad. Um, but I mean it's an old game. It wasn't designed to run on Windows 10, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But like I want it to. I want to play it again without a HUD that's like an inch tall on my screen, and without
Yeah.
like texture filtering that makes me want to die. So yeah, that one's not so much that I don't want to play it again. It's just I need to go get an old computer to play it on. I think it's probably the right move.
Mm-hmm. And for new games, is there any new game that you want to play a lot or out there?
Yeah, so I have not been able to play games like at all lately. I've been so busy, and so like my backlog has just gotten absolutely ridiculous. But like I've got the Half-Life 2 VR mod that I really want to check out.
Mm-hmm.
I want to play. I've been playing Incision, which Incision's awesome. It just got a demo during Realms Deep. It's super fun, or not a demo. It's out on early access. Excuse me.
In fact,
It's super fun.
this Wednesday I will interview Smooth. So
Yeah,
we,
Incision's super fun.
mm-hmm.
And that's and the developer's a great dude too. So that's him and I chat a
Mm-hmm.
lot, and that's honestly like that's a whole other tangent about how much fun it is to just my backlog is the size it is because I meet all of these developers in like the retro shooter and indie sphere, and the games they're working on are awesome, and they are awesome people, and so it's like I want to play their game, but I just have no time.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of indie games, Callisto Protocol is what I'm waiting for. That's gonna be. As a big fan of Resident Evil 4, I'm obviously a big fan of Dead Space, and so Callisto Protocol is gonna be pretty sick. I'm really excited for that one.
Mm-hmm.
So, but right now, gosh, like once Chapter One is out and I have a little bit of breathing room, like I've been really wanting to play Minecraft again. I haven't done Minecraft in a long time, and I've really been wanting to sink my teeth into maybe like a modded server and just like don't come out of my room for a week. It's gonna be great.
Mm-hmm. You know that you all the devs are the same because I talk with the ones of Project Downfall, and they are also just making their game. They don't play any other game. With
Yeah.
everyone is so focused on developing.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, it's not healthy, I don't think, like, but it's just like anytime I like shut down Unity and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna play a game and relax. I get
mm-hmm.
20 minutes into it and then I'm like, man, I could really be working right now. And so like, gosh, but I always joke with people that like, well, it's not even a joke. Like I get anytime I get sick, I get like really excited because it's like the only time that I let myself just like sit in bed and just like watch TV or like play a game or something. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like it used to be I don't know if Redbox still does game rentals, but back when they did game rentals, it was like if I felt myself getting sick, I would like go to the store and rent a game that I've been meaning to play, and I would just like lay on the couch and just play it for like 2 days. And it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
nope, I'm sick. I'm not gonna work. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna lay here. I'm gonna eat donuts, and I'm gonna play this game. And that's just and so like yeah. But hopefully in this case, it'll just be like Chapter One will come out. I'll get any big patches that need to come out done, and then just like step away from my computer for a week, except for playing video games, which I'll step away from Unity for a week, not my computer. But yeah, I've got so many games I need to play. Oh,
Okay,
it's
sounds
the
like
sort
a
of
good
struggle
plan.
is real.
Sounds like a good plan. I will ask you one week later from the launch. I will ask you, did you get away from the Unity? And let's see what happens.
Probably not. I, I will probably not answer. I'll be like, yeah, yep, definitely.
Okay, as I said, Wednesday I will interview also the Incision developer. Come on,
Awesome.
let's make you a question for him.
You want me to make a question for him?
Yeah.
Um. Oh man. Ask him about the save system. It'll go great. He'll love that.
Mm-hmm. So make the question. Make you. Yeah, I will put that clip of you asking him a question.
Okay. When are you gonna add a quick save? That's my question for him. Look into the camera and everything.
Okay. I think that that will be most of it. Let me check. Yeah, I have all the questions done. So thank you very much for being here with me today. Hope
Yeah.
that you had a good time, and let's hope that there is no major problem from here to the launch of the game, and we can play Cultic as soon as possible.
Yeah, fingers crossed. The QA build went really well. So there's some optimization I want to do. I finally got my Steam Deck, and so I'm able to like test it out on Steam Deck, which has been a great for benchmarking. And I've kind of found some spots that don't run very well. So I'm just optimization, and I'm thinking it'll be good to go. But we'll see when the QA guys come back. That's when we'll know.
So, for everyone that wants to know more about Cultic, you can follow him in her Twitter, that is just under him. And that's all. Thank you very much, and see you on Wednesday. That I will be talking with the Incision developer. That it's another sick game that went out the last week, and it's so good. So see you then. Bye.
Bye.